not fun. I'm not having a good time.
I'm sorry. Hey everybody, thanks so much for tuning in this week to my life as a law student, or I guess my life as a bored summer intern. This week we, as in me and my friend Mack,
Hi.
from Wash U, are going to be watching and reacting to The Paper Chase. If you aren't familiar with this movie, it is from 1973 and it's about a law student who goes through and struggles through his first year of law school. I thought it would be fun, and a lot of you thought it would be fun for me and one of my friends to see how accurate it is to the 2020 experience. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I feel like they were way more quiet walking into the like little classroom.
It was
that
quite
people watch you
somber.
wear.
Yeah.
Which is now how I feel walking into a law classroom. But day one, I
Somber.
yeah,
really
somber and upset. Don't want to be there.
Mr. Hart, what damages do you think the doctor should pay? What did the doctor promise?
There was a promise to fix the hand back to the way it was before it was burned.
And the result of the operation?
The hand was much worse than before he went to the doctor.
How should the court measure the damages?
There is no way that that would be day one case material.
Yeah, no way.
That guy wouldn't have known what damages were, how to calculate them.
This has not been my experience, or was not my experience, but I know some people have had teachers where they maybe throw a case that's not necessarily straightforward right at the beginning to, like,
I think this is
Some
where you need to be
teachers
at.
who
did that.
oh yeah, well yeah, that's totally true, but I don't think it was malicious.
You gotta work like hell. No kidding. Nobody jokes about grades. I mean, try getting a job without them. It's all stacked against you if you don't have the grades. Don't think you got it made just because you go to Harvard.
Maybe I better start studying then.
You'll know that a lot of the top 10 schools have already transitioned into like credit, no credit, pass, fail kind of grading. Because come to find out, if you go to Harvard, you're gonna get a job.
Yeah, I think Wash U is 17
I
now.
think now it's 17.
And Wash U, at least as of last year, prided itself on every single graduate getting a job, like a legally related job, every year. And so if you're in a top 10 school, that's certainly happening for you. Even if you're at the bottom of your class, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're, I would say pretty confidently that if you're in a top 20 school, you're gonna get a job.
Don't like fail out. If you
Right.
graduate, you'll be fine. This guy's highlighting game, though, is the most accurate thing I've seen so far in the first 7 minutes of the movie. You can see in his glasses, like the whole page is reflected as being highlighted. And I actually think I mentioned this in a previous video, but if you are in law school and you're reading a case, you're gonna wanna highlight everything because it seems so important. And in general, those things are in the opinion because they're important, but that doesn't make them important for you to know for the next class.
I found that colored highlighting can be really beneficial and can really like stop you from over highlighting and make you focus on the things that are important. So like looking for, you know, what is the question they're trying to answer, right? Like what is the point of the case in one color, and then right, what is the point?
What is the point of law school?
Right, what is the point of it all? And then like, you know, making sure that you know like what the outcome of the case is, right? And then going back and, you know, highlighting the parts and maybe a different color for reasoning, right? Like how they came up with this.
Yeah.
So just don't highlight everything in yellow.
At times, you may feel that you have found the correct answer. I assure you that this is a total delusion on your part. You will never find the correct, absolute, and final answer. In my classroom, there is always another question to follow your answer. Yes, you're on a treadmill. My little questions spin the tumblers of your mind. You're on an operating table. My little questions are the fingers probing your brain. We do brain surgery here. You teach yourselves the law, but I train your mind. You come in here with a skull full of mush, and you leave thinking like a lawyer.
You will hear this a lot from your teachers, from admissions, from literally everybody. You're in law school to learn how to think like a lawyer. And now I hear it. Gives me the chills.
I've also said it, for sure, on this channel, because it's so important. To some extent, it's true that you don't know really what you're looking for in a case. You don't know what issues, there could be or that you would need to resolve for your client prior to law school. I think there is an aspect to law school that does help you, I guess, think in that way. But it's so overused, and I think it gives this false sense of necessity to law school that I don't think is accurate for every version of law.
Right. There's so many different types of law that there aren't enough law classes to cover them, and they all operate kind of on their own continuum of words and arguments, and so
You will not learn everything you need to know about the law from law.
don't expect it.
I think most of what lawyers actually do is more learned on the job than anything else.
It's very interesting to me how quickly the classes have divided up into 3 factions. One faction being the students who sit in the back of the class, giving up sitting their assigned seats, preparing the cases. What is it, only October? They've already given up trying. Cowards. The second group are the ones who won't raise their hands or volunteer an answer, but will try when they're called upon. That's where I am right now, living in a state of constant fear. And then there's the third echelon, the upper echelon, the volunteers. They raise their hands in class, they thrust themselves into the fray. I don't think they're smarter than anyone else, but they have courage. And they'll achieve the final recognition. The teachers will get to know their names and they'll get better grades.
I think I'm pretty solidly in the second one.
Yeah.
Unless I don't like uncomfortable silence, and so if it's like an easy question and no one's volunteering and it's been like a long time, then I'll volunteer the easy answer and immediately look down so I don't get called on anymore. I can understand why it's nerve-wracking for people who don't like speaking in public, but it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah. And if you're worried that that's gonna affect your final grade,
It won't.
it's not. Yeah, you're good.
In one case, there are 2 mutual promises. In the other, there is a condition on a promise. Mr. Brooks, do you know the difference between a condition on a promise and a promise? Mr. Brooks, did you read this material?
Yes, I did read the material. I memorized the facts. I have a photographic memory.
A what?
A photographic memory.
Could you repeat that?
A photographic memory.
A photographic memory is of absolutely no use to you, Mr. Brooks, without the ability to analyze that vast mass of facts between your ears. Did you hear me, Brooks?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In law school, there are a lot of hypotheticals. Most of them are very confusing. And that's all I have to say about accurate. Don't remember the difference between a condition on a promise and 2 mutual
sure.
I know there is one.
I don't know. Because it says conditional, I don't remember. I don't know. My shoulders are up here again.
I found that most professors, if you really truly don't know what you're talking about, they'll move on to somebody else and come back to you for another question. You'll get like shamed a little bit by the professor, but I think our classmates were pretty good about helping us out and not making us feel bad. Like, oh yeah, I didn't know that answer either. It does suck in that moment though. I've been cold called for an answer. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'll be okay. You'll be fine.
Yeah. You can do it.
I agree with Ford. I've given this problem considerable thought, and in terms of maximum grade point, the most sensible thing is not to study. See how much you retain as a result of normal studying procedure, and then you'll be able to measure accurately how much extra work you'll need when it comes to take the real test in the spring.
I thought we might all study together for the practice exams to give us a chance to see how well we'll work together at the end of the year.
But we don't have time to get up for this test, Kevin. We just take it. It doesn't count.
Look, what I really would like to do is just talk about how to take the exam.
It's not so bad an idea. I'd like a session on examsmanship.
Maybe you need somebody to hold your hand.
We should talk about study groups because we haven't yet. And also practice exams. Because what's his face has it right and the other guy has it wrong. Just very clear I know what I'm talking about.
You decide.
Practice exams are in general a good idea.
Do them.
She did a lot more of them than I did.
A lot of law school, especially your first year, you're so wrapped up in these like theoretical concepts, and that's, yes, one of the reasons why teachers try to use hypos, right? Because they're trying to get you to analyze something on your own. And so getting your professor's previous exams, taking them in the amount of time that you'll have, going over them, and then filling in the things that you think you would have put in otherwise, and then talking to your professor about them is so helpful. So for 2 of my classes, it was contracts and property. We got like a lot of practice exams, and for both of those classes, I finished the exams early, had time to go back and look over all of my work, and did really well on the exams. So like, live by it, die by it. Practice exams are like the only way you're gonna see if you're gonna succeed on an exam, because it's very specific, right? Like, you don't learn how to take a law school exam any other way, and it's your whole grade. So I definitely do it.
And did you go to the professors with your practice exams and say, how did I do, what did I miss, or how did you like actually practically review your exams?
So if I had specific questions, like if I was like, something about this seems like it might touch on this concept, like, did it touch on this concept? Teachers are not going to read your whole practice exam. Sometimes they'll give you like answers, right? They'll give you like maybe one of their previous students, how they took the exam, and be like, this is a guide for like how this was an A paper, right? And so this was an A exam, or whatever the case may be, and you can like reference it to that. But you'll learn pretty quick as you're taking them the concepts that you're like, I got those, and I can analyze that. And you'll also learn the ones where you might see a fact pattern or something that touches your memory on something that you maybe didn't fully understand, and those are the issues that you can bring up with the professor. Be like, hey, this part of whatever, the fact pattern for the exam, this, I feel like there's something here that I'm missing, and then you can walk through it with them. They all have office hours. Like, use those office hours not to talk about theoretical ridiculousness, and use them to talk about like practical, this is the test, the type of test you give, this is the type of answer you want, and we can walk through it, and now I'm ready for the exam.
That is great advice.
Seriously.
I was really not disciplined at taking practice exams on my own. What worked for me was when I could get together with a group of friends, sometimes with Mack included, and take them with other people and compare my answers to others. Or if a professor had either a student paper, or the best, in my opinion, is when they had a model answer. That to me was a lot more helpful. I know different people work different ways. I found it really difficult to just analyze something that I had written based on my own self, because I feel like I don't understand any of it. So it was helpful for me to hear what I had missed and then go study those areas. So whichever kind of exam taker you are, you'll only really know once you take one. So definitely take them. As for study groups, they sound like a good idea. Neither of us were in one.
Neither of us were asked to join a study group upon arriving on the campus.
Right. But I think that if you like make some friends, or if you want to start one, I think that they could be useful. I would not advise just like taking other people's outlines. That's not going to be that useful to you. Outlines are useful because you are in the process of creating them, not because you have the final product of one. Which is the same thing that goes for like if you get a prior student's outline. It can be helpful to like compare your own outline and maybe do like quick studying if you feel like your outline is crap, but just relying on that is not going to be sufficient. So creating your own outline, discussing points of law with other students, either in a study group or
Practice exams,
conversation,
yeah, whatever the
and
case
practice
may be.
exams. Definitely 3 ways to succeed in law school.
It's going to cost you a fortune to Xerox that, Bill.
Maybe I'm not going to Xerox it.
But what does that mean? Maybe you're not going to Xerox it.
This is a great outline. Fantastic. If yours doesn't stack up, you won't get a chance to look at it.
Boo. That's not even a good outline, actually.
Yeah, your outline should not be that big.
It's not useful to you or anybody else. That's just all of his class notes, plus like extra research for fun. Your professor will have you read and tell you in class everything you need to know for the exam. Anything that you learn outside of it, whether it's relevant to the material or not, is not helpful to you.
Only if it helps you understand what the teacher wants you to learn better, right? Like
Right.
only if like it helps you understand a concept. But like you're not supposed to do work outside of class. Like you're not supposed to do work outside of your books. Like they'll let you know.
So say statute of frauds is a topic that you need to understand and you're just not getting it. The way that the teacher is explaining doesn't make sense to you. Maybe then you go get a supplement explaining the statute of frauds, or you watch YouTube videos just so you can get other ways of explaining and processing and understanding it in your brain.
And then it's probably good to bring those to your teacher. Like your teacher
Yeah.
will have office hours. Like you can always go back.
Right. But if your class is like ours and it's like clearly not gonna be a big deal for your class, don't go read 2 textbooks on statute of frauds and put it in your gigantic outline, because it doesn't matter.
If you're pushing like over 15 pages, like you've gone too far, you need to like condense it. Like you don't always have to use words too. Like use diagrams. Like I use diagrams a lot to help me like understand stuff and like, but yeah, like your tests are timed. There's no way that something this thick is going to be beneficial.
You won't have time to find the thing that you need help with. Having all of your class notes is helpful for making an outline. An outline is not just a compilation of your class notes. It's supposed to be a condensed version of the topics you learned and maybe important things that you think you might not be able to remember as well as an exam.
Right.
And that's even if you're allowed to bring your outline into the exam. Because if you are, you should bring only the stuff you don't already know
Have down.
and have, because otherwise it's just a waste of space and stuff for you to flip through that you don't actually need to look at.
I know a lot of people who did like they would have an outline that was maybe like 10 to 15 pages, right? And then from that they would take the stuff that they didn't know, and it's called your like attack outline, right? And so you have like a page or 2 of the concepts or the case names that you know might want to use, to reference something or whatever the situation may be. And then those are the pages you use on the exam. They're like the most efficient, and it's like there's just no other way to do it.
I liked having, I don't remember which class I did this in. I think it was maybe property. I had like a bullet point list of just every topic we had talked about. Not an explanation, like just like at the title of the topic we had talked about. So then when I was going through the problem and the hypothetical, I could be like, okay, was this in here anywhere? Let's make sure I talk about it. It would remind me of things that I could be looking for in that problem that I maybe wouldn't just think of on the spot from reading it. So I think that's helpful. I think a TAC outline is helpful if you're allowed to have it. Whatever's going on here is not.
You get out of my study group!
It's a pleasure, you...
Quite amusing. I wonder if our dropout rate is paralleled in other groups.
People do drop out, but I feel like this movie is making it seem like everyone is always at the risk all the time. You're dropping out or leaving or flunking, and I don't think that that's accurate.
And there's something to be said about like when you inundate yourself with something, like it becomes like the pressure can like it just builds up because you're in that environment.
And a
so,
pressure bubble of the law
and
school.
just there's this
That's
feeling of
true.
anxiety that people feed off of those feelings and they grow. And when you're only in these like
It
same
is-
four walls and
Yeah.
you're not getting out, and so I recommend like do something.
Unrelated to law school.
Yeah.
Have another life. For me, like that's church and Bible study or going swing dancing, like going on walks in the botanical gardens. But like, it's really important to me to have friends that aren't law school associated. And so you can still like talk about law school with them, but they're not gonna like feed it back at you. Like when we hang out, even though we have talked about non-law school related things, it always circles back.
Right.
Because everything circles back to
Mhm.
something.
And it's like it's like a huge part of our lives. The statistics for, law students who come out with like anxiety and depression and stuff, that is real.
Alcoholism.
Yeah, like the drug addictions, like that is real.
Just don't do that.
So like find an outlet like before you get to the point where that starts to become an issue.
I can't really complain a lot about my mental health. I feel like for the most part, like anybody, like I have issues, but for the most part, I've been pretty like mentally healthy throughout my life. And law school really challenged that.
It does a number.
Quite often. Like for somebody who I feel like has a good like support system, like I feel like my heart is in a good place. My family, for the most part, is like in a good place, and I felt so like alone and stressed out and tired and inadequate like all the time. And that was at a law school that was pretty like supportive, minus the curve that's everywhere, but like the administration, the teachers were pretty like available, and our class wasn't like overly competitive, and I had good friends like Mack I could complain to. So if you don't have any of that and you don't like make those conscious efforts, that could definitely be a struggle.
I think a lot of people who go to law school are like type A, like to have a lot of control, like they're not used to this ambiguity. They're not used to like not having the correct answer, and studying and still not having the correct answer necessarily. So like definitely get yourself, like if you need to talk to people too, like if you need to go see someone, if you need to see a counselor, if like you need to do something like that, like get on it, because it will snowball,
And don't feel like you're crazy for feeling that
Everyone
way.
feels that way.
Literally every single
just don't
person.
talk about it.
Like there's this one girl in our class whose outlines for Civ Pro were the only reason I passed that during the quarantine. But she was in our group meet the other day saying like, I feel like I'm being so lazy, I feel like I'm not enough. And I'm like, you are probably the smartest person I've talked to at this law school, and if you're feeling that way, like it makes me feel bad. I'm
Everybody,
sorry,
yeah.
but like I know that everybody then is having the same mental problems that I am. So when you inevitably feel that,
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
it's gonna, you will be okay. You're not alone, and you're not crazy.
If you talk to another student about it, guarantee you they're gonna come back with, I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like it's even the people who are like on it in class, who you're like, man, they're so smart, they get it, they have the best answers. They're the ones who are like, I feel like I don't deserve to be here, and like Like everybody feels the same way.
You can be smart and feel like crap at the same time.
Okay. Bring on the test.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Professor Kingsfield?
Yes?
I just wanted to tell you I truly enjoyed your class.
That's fine. Fine.
What I mean is, you really mean something to me, and your class has really meant something to me.
What is your name?
That's not a crazy response for a professor to have in some classes.
Especially your first year classes where there's like 90 of you.
I'm not confident that any of my professors, except for legal writing or legal practice, because that was a smaller section where like I actually interacted with my professor a fair bit, I don't think any of my other professors would even know my name, actually.
Yeah.
Or if they
have
did,
no idea.
they wouldn't know anything about me.
I don't really care.
That's true.
The exams, like the first one's always the hardest, right? Because you've never done it before and you have no idea kind of what you're walking into. I don't know if I did anything special like on the day of, I don't know, do your normal routine.
I sprained my jaw during an exam.
Don't do that.
Don't do that. I would not recommend bringing
What?
a Cliff Bar as your snack.
I thought because like you were just like so anxiously writing and clenching your jaw that it just broke.
No, I like went out to take a, because you get like this 4-hour exam and really you kind of need all that time. Some
Yeah,
professors
it.
will be nicer and give like an extra 10-15 minutes in case you want to like go to the bathroom or take a snack because you can't obviously go to the bathroom or have a snack in the exam room, but other professors will not. So anyway, I was taking a snack break on one of my exams, and I went and I got a Cliff Bar that was in my locker, and I was trying to eat it fast, but like Cliff Bars are not something you can eat that fast because really chewy and dense, and I literally sprained my jaw. Like, it hurts so bad.
That's which exam?
I don't remember. I think it was contracts, actually. I think it was our last one. So that was good.
Try not to do that. I would say definitely like go to the bathroom before you start the exam. You're not gonna want to go while you're in it.
And have a soft, quickly consumable.
Yes. I brought in like with the exam, I had like a water and like a soda, and then I had like gum. You know, something to like, I don't know, just like something to activate some part of my body because you're literally just like sitting like this on your computer.
Of the paper chase. I don't know that I totally get the title of this movie because you're chasing papers.
I think that's probably a pretty solid guess.
But it doesn't make any sense. I don't know that I would necessarily recommend this movie. I found myself checking how long there was left of it very often. It feels very long. And part of that, as Mack was saying, is because we've been through it and it feels tense and tedious. Because law school is tense and tedious.
It feels like we've been here for 10 hours.
If you do watch it, or you have watched it, I would say it's like 40% accurate. I want to see at the end of this movie of Bella like getting an F on his transcript.
Yeah, that's the final scene.
It's the end credits.
Yeah.
Speaking of end credits, this is gonna be the end of this video. So thanks so much, Mack, for coming and guest starring on my channel. I'll have to have you here again because I was cracking up every time we were off camera too, so I'd love to have you come back. If you guys want to see Mack or any of my other law school or I guess other friends, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about this movie. Like the video if you liked it. I guess I dislike the video if you didn't like it.
If you didn't like me here,
Just thumbs down.
just, yeah, thumbs down. It's cool.
But I hope to see you here next week. One way that you can ensure that happening is subscribing to this channel. God bless.
Bye.